didn't comment on that effort, which ended up taking just under 14% of the vote.
We want to bring in a political analyst now to really discuss the results from yesterday. If there were any surprises out there and what to expect now as we now look ahead to November.
And we have John Selle from Harbor Strategic now joining us this morning. We love hearing from John and his take on everything. So let's first touch on those uncommitted votes. I'm taking a look at Wayne County right now. That's, of course, where Dearborn is, and we knew that some more uncommitted votes would be happening. 17% uncommitted votes there. Did that surprise you? Did you think that number undershooted what you thought would happen?
It's a little bit higher than maybe what we expected, but it wasn't high enough to reach the kind of levels, the stratospheric levels of coverage that the national media has given to that effort. To put it in perspective, the last time there was a Democratic president running for re-election who had uncommitted votes, that was Barack Obama in 2012, and there was 11% voted uncommitted on his re-election. So to get to 12, 13, 14% is a smidge higher, but it's not earth-shattering different. Where it matters for President Biden and his team, and for Governor Whitmer, who put in an effort over the last few days to try to stem the tide, but I don't think she was very effective at that, is in areas like the city of Dearborn, which is at least half of the population is of Arab descent. That was the epicenter of the protest movement, but certainly in large swaths of Wayne County, it did the same. And in the city of Dearborn, uncommitted beat Joe Biden by a lot. So they were not making empty threats there. They did rally the community against President Biden on this issue. As the further away you went from Southeast Michigan, the less intense that effort got, but they're taking full credit for all the votes. Just like if you win a football game, whether some of it was luck or happenstance, you take all the credit. And the national headlines we're going to see over the next 12 hours until we move on to the next thing, because that's what we do in politics, are all going to say that Joe Biden has some issues to deal with. That's why I think he's just glad to get past Michigan and move on to Super Tuesday.
Yeah. And on the Republican side, Trump just continuing to show that momentum. Big win over Nikki Haley. People thought maybe this could be her chance to maybe turn things around, picking up Michigan. But as we saw with the votes, just about 26% or so that she won. So Trump really had a dominating, commanding win yet again. Let's talk about how things will shake out as far as delegates go with this win. We know that some were picked up last night, but more also need to be earned this weekend.
That's right. Because the Democrats decided to move their primary up before March 1st, that set off a huge, complicated mess in which the GOP had to split the way they picked their delegates. So we picked a small portion of those delegates yesterday in the GOP primary out in public. Now on Saturday, behind the scenes, more in a private setting, what are called caucuses, similar to what they do in Iowa. The GOP will meet again, and they'll give Donald Trump more than likely nearly, if not all the delegates from that level. So Donald Trump's going to walk away with all the delegates likely from Michigan. Nikki Haley will not gain any. And she really has had a hard time picking up any delegates other than a small area where she lived in South Carolina back on Saturday. So I think for the most part, this controversy about the Republican Party and who's in charge of it is starting to come to an end. We saw the courts in West Michigan yesterday say that Pete Hoekstra is the chair of the Michigan Republican Party. So when he holds the caucus events on Saturday, he's more than legitimatized beyond being supported by President Trump, being supported by the Republican National Committee, and now being recognized by state courts as the chair of the party. And I think that'll help the MIGOP go forward. But certainly this whirlwind around Dearborn and the uncommitted vote in Gaza over the last few days dominated the airwaves. So the Democrats were really the ones dealing with a tough set of headlines coming out of Michigan. Now we're going to kind of hit the reset button and everybody get excited about the huge multitude of states coming up on Super Tuesday.
Yeah, reset really for both parties as Republicans now uniting following that court decision, and Biden obviously coming out on top. We're going to talk with you in the next hour as well, and we're going to talk moving forward as we're seeing the caucuses coming up this weekend. But we appreciate all of your knowledge following yesterday's votes.
All right, thanks for having me.
All right, 8:17 right now is still ahead.
You are all clear. Thank you so much for talking with us
All right,
today.
see you later.
Your weather to West and Candace Monticelli will be back to break down the system that spawned that tornado in Calhoun County.
These are